Hello all, welcome to the Legend of Gaming podcast. I'm Matt.
And you got Cliff.
And today we will be talking about racing games. But before we get into the racing games, let's start with our Cliff notes. Cliff?
Hey, we have a few. It's only like 3, and then we're just going to do a little summary. So the curling in Olympics for the Sonic and Mario game. You asked me previously, was there curling in it? Yes, there is, and in multiple games, which is pretty nice. The other thing is, like, you mentioned the broccoli girl. People, I looked this up. We looked it up together, and she does pull broccoli out of her pocket. In fact, let's just leave it at the point where I think you need to go visit and go take a look at this.
I want to know if you think it's cooked prior to being in her pocket or if she steamed it in her pocket.
I think she steamed it in her pocket because it looked hot outside, and it looked bright green. It looked like it. I think she,
And technically it's in a sealed bag.
No, it wasn't.
I'm in her pocket.
Oh, that's true. I wonder what, did she put seasoning on it? So many questions.
I will tell you right now,
So many
I know for a fact, no. But that's regardless of the point.
So we're going to jump into our summary for our last episode. We went over sports and we covered a lot of different pieces to it when it comes to just like the amount of time that people put in, to the customization, to how you can connect with some people that you feel are your heroes, or even just like wacky, fun, different ways to play games that you may have accessibility to or may not. We just showed different ways that you can tap into that world, which is really cool.
It is. And honestly, after we got done, I really thought about a lot of the points that you made. And being a kid of the 90s, there are certain teams that were superstars before I was born. So it's also a way of just like being able to maybe get a picture into the past and be able to like enjoy it in a different medium than just watching them play.
Yeah.
So totally appreciate that. Also, it kind of stemmed from Space Jam because I was thinking about the Space Jam game.
Yes.
And I was thinking about the players that they had in the movie, like Charles Barkley, Michael Jordan, like they had the best of the time. Like that's
they really did,
wild.
yeah. That's crazy that he was in a movie too.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's pretty much it. We have one last thing. You had mentioned an anime that was for volleyball, and it was correct. It was a haiku.
Haiku. I know. I said haiku, haiku.
A little bit hard to pronounce, even me saying it right now. There is another one as well, just to kind of give you guys an idea. This one's for basketball because we were talking about basketball in that moment. This one's called Koruku's basket.
You know, we're not going to hold Cliff accountable for the pronunciation of Japanese
Fingers
shows.
crossed. Yeah, listen, doing what we can over here.
I will tell you, though, I'll look into it. Because the same way that I'll play video games that are not necessarily my style, I know for a fact I like animes that are my style. So yeah. I'm going to have to check it out.
Absolutely.
Okay, well, if that's what we got, I guess today we're just going to jump right into the racing podcast then. And really, I wanted you to get us started. You know, we talk about playing sports games. Maybe there's that transitionary period or games for people that are not into sports in real life, right?
Yeah.
And talk about those NFL Street, NBA Street, those games, right? That same element exists for racing games.
Right.
I love cars. I do not know how to do a single thing to my car. I am not a mechanic. What series would you position for people who are maybe interested in cars, into Fast and the Furious? Maybe not the newer movies, they're flying in space and stuff, but the original OG movies. When you look at media that's intended to be put out for people who are into cars, what game do you think is like the easy dip in the toe into the pool?
I like the way that you worded that because it's looking for like a game that's digestible, that you can kind of like, just like you said, dip your toe in. It's going to be Need for Speed. You've played a lot. I've played a lot. There's a big series behind it. And I think the best way we can kind of tackle it is probably going over like some of our favorites, some of the best moments, and what kind of like drew us in. I can say probably one of my favorite ones was Most Wanted. If you've played Most Wanted, the first mission is probably one of the most intense missions. You have like it should be an E46 M3 BMW GTR. And if you don't know cars, you're like, he's just saying a bunch
That's
of
me.
numbers
It's
and
like,
words.
Womp, 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 womp. I'm like, is it fast?
Exactly. So think of this as almost like a limited edition car, a really fast car. And you start off and you're actually being chased by, not joking, like 50 cop cars behind you. Roughly about 50 cop cars. So you're racing to get on out of there. And Most Wanted really advertises like you doing races and the cops are really on you, so you feel that pressure of being like tracked down. And everyone lives their day-to-day life and they don't have like the cops chasing them, you know?
Oh, yeah.
Most people.
I mean,
Yeah.
hey.
It is what it is. But to kind of give you that intensity of like, oh, I need to get away, I think that's one for me that was like, oh wow, this is really cool. It's a perspective that, you know, not saying that I want, but now that I can experience it, I can see the intensity behind it.
Definitely not something you want in your actual real life, but being able to live it out, experience it, have those little competencias with the police, right? It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Is it an open world game, or is this like a linear, you start from that first mission and then it's like mission 2, mission 3 goes down a set? Or like, can you kind of pick and choose, you know, I'm going to go out and I'm going to do some street races. I'm going to go do this story mission and then the police are going to chase me? Or is like, it just kind of like you're driven down a particular storyline?
It's actually open world and you're going up like this, almost like a blacklist of everyone that's like really good within the area. And then you're also being more on like the radar as like, oh, we need to get this car. So it was really fun. That was a really good game.
Sounds very cool. Because, I mean, those similar elements are what like attracted me in the beginning. I played Need for Speed Hot Pursuit 2.
Yeah.
And that was like the first game where, you know, you're playing a racing game. You're racing your dad, racing brother, racing whoever in the family. You know, you're playing that LAN console, playing together.
Yeah.
The cop element really added a different layer to a racing game where, you know, unfortunately, a lot of times if one person's just better at the game, that's just how it plays out. Like, they're going to win every race because they're just a little bit more skill, and that little bit more skill, unfortunately, pushes you ahead in most racing games.
Yeah.
Adding the cops really would like spin people out, or they'd pop their tires, or, you know, they'd have to drive them off the road and then have to take a more beaten path. And I think that for me, I'm not really the best racer.
Okay.
But I pick up on things quick. So those elements of cops really adding obstacles that really like
that unexpected
challenge your skill. I think it's really like challenge your skill of decision making.
Yes.
Because like
true.
Racing a car is like very linear. You fill out the car, you learn how it drives, and then you know, push the limits. You can't read the AI. So I think that, you know, being able to change the difficulty, the maps being changed up from somewhere out in the woods, and they'd actually have dirt paths to you're racing through cities, the cops having different cars, it really added a lot of just change where I wouldn't get bored. Instead of just having to pick different cars, it's like, not only would you pick different cars, certain cars are going to drive faster off road. So if I want to maybe lose the cops, I'll drive through this campsite. So let me get a car with, you know, all-wheel drive rather than rear-wheel drive. It just added a layer. As a kid, I was like, damn, I feel like I'm really running from these cops. I really feel like I'm running from the 12.
Yeah. No, that's spot on. I love that. Not to jump away from that game, but Rivals. Did you get a chance to play Rivals by chance?
No.
So Rivals, just like how you were saying you're getting that different perspective, Rivals had it where you were actually playing as
this
a
is
cop.
Need for Speed Rivals, correct?
Need for Speed Rivals, yeah.
I'm like Spider-Man and Venom racing each other. My brain rot.
That would be actually a sight I would love to see. But to kind of give you guys an idea, if you ever wanted to see the opposite side of where you're chasing down racers, you get that ability. So then let's say you're chasing down 6 cars, right? You can drop spikes yourself. You can actually EMP cars and throw them completely off like edges, stuff like that. You can call in a helicopter. The helicopter will follow them, make sure they don't get too far, and actually drop spikes as well. You can call in blockades, which is probably one of the coolest ones too. Because if you call it in at the right spot, it could be like 6 cars stacked up. If it's a smaller road, it might just be 2 or 4. But it made it really cool because you knew you were the authority and you needed to get them down.
I did not know that was the thing.
Rivals is good. I like that one.
Was not for Rivals, but that element you're explaining is what attracted me to role playing in GTA.
Oh, really?
Because there's role playing servers where people will play cops and robbers, and there's people who are literally trying to stop other real humans from doing crime.
Right.
And it's like not something you replicate very easily in a game. So the fact that Need for Speed kind of already did it, awesome. But also, like, I've never even seen it, didn't know. When you talk about blockades and all this, are those upgradable, or is that like just kind of like you have 3 to 5 options and these are the things you can do?
It depends on the map and the like car. So potentially, like, as you're playing the game, they'll have moments where it's like, oh, you're getting introduced to EMPs for the first time. You have like 6 of them and you won't have any other devices. You have 6 cars in front of you. You have no backup. It's just you, the cars, but you have EMP. And probably as I keep thinking about it, I'm like, oh, the roadblock's really cool. The EMP was really cool too. I love that one because you had to hold a lock on and you hear this noise going in the background, like dee, 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 dee. Like, you have to keep it very leveled on them, and they're swerving, they're going back and forth, they're drifting out of the way. They're trying to keep it where you can't lock on because they can hear. They have tech in their car. If you're playing as a racer, they can hear when you're locking on. They get a notification.
Okay.
Like, so it's a lot of play back and forth. I've had it where, to kind of give a example, I was playing online and someone was locking on to me. I swerved left, right. You could see them in the back. They were staying on me. They had it down pack. But the moment I popped the e-brake and they went flying past, and then I stayed in the back, then I had an opportunity where it's like, oh, they missed their shot. So
Okay.
it's really fun. It's really cool. The EMPs, the moment you engage it, if you don't get a lock on within a certain amount of time, it goes away. So you lose it.
Okay.
So then it's not like something I can just abuse.
Spam and like, I'm just going to drive behind you and get you at some point. Like, you have to actually have skill, pick a timing. You're not doing it around turns. You're doing it on straightaways. I like that a lot.
And that goes right back to what you were mentioning with the, making split decisions. Because there's moments where there's straightaways. Perfect. I'm popping the EMP.
You're cooked.
There's nowhere you can go.
Yeah.
It's going to be hard to shake me.
That sounds super cool.
It's
I'm
really
going to
fun
have to check
game.
that out.
Yeah.
Before we get off Need for Speed, we're talking about, is this customizable? And like, honestly, I like that it's not. And I like that they keep you entrenched in the map. Like, on these long ones where you're riding behind, having EMPs is going to make it more challenging than like road blocking a one-way road. You know what I mean? Like, of course it's going to work. For customization, I thought Need for Speed really hit it with Underground and Underground 2.
Yeah.
It's a mixture of customization and timing. Because I know that we have another game that we'll mention right after that has to do with customization. But when it comes to Need for Speed Underground, I was really into Fast and the Furious. That was when the first and second movies came out, and they were about cars, and they were showing off body kits. They had some wild CGI, but when you look at the community, right, with air quotes, they really were making it a point to have music that fit the theme, but also like any type of car you want, you can pick and you can customize.
Right.
Did you play Need for Speed Underground, Underground 2?
I definitely played 2. I think I played 1, if I'm not mistaken, and I know they're very iconic games. 2 was really good. I enjoyed it a lot. And you're right, just like you mentioned, like Fast and the Furious was really big at the time. That was the closest thing you got to like having that experience. Really good game.
Yeah, and you've also mentioned other games. A lot of the games were intended to be racing games.
Yeah.
You get in a car, you race against other people. It's first, second, third. And Need for Speed Underground was the first time where it's like, well, what do you want to drive around in?
Yeah.
What do you want to look like? And like, it's other than just red, blue, white. Here's colors. Like, no, you could add in different rims, body kits.
Yeah.
You could add neon lights. You could change.
Look.
Well, what's crazy? The car I hated the most.
What was it?
Was a Volkswagen Golf. And that's not what I drive, which is crazy.
I was like, what?
Which is crazy because like the cars that I liked as a kid, the Mazda RX-7,
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, still iconic. But I think it's just kind of funny how now I drive the car that was like, I would never. 12-year-old me would be so disappointed with me. But I do love my car. I think I was just sleeping on some style back in the day.
And like once you are hands on behind the car, it's a lot different than just like seeing it. And I know the connection that you get through playing games and racing games it's a little bit of a touch of the car. It's not that full experience from like everything I've like seen and stuff like that, but it definitely gives you a taste of it. But it's crazy that that's actually your switch up.
Well, and I think you actually are like just highlighting exactly why these games are good. These games do give you a touch, but you don't need to really know. You don't really need to know how to drive a car to be able to play this game, opposed to like a Gran Turismo or a Forza. The one game I do want to highlight before we get into those really realistic ones, though. What was your take on Midnight Club?
Midnight Club, you can go on there. You can go to the start page. Just look at the 2 cars that are in front of the title page and just listen to the music, and you'll be fine. The game itself is really good, and there's certain parts of the storyline that have to happen. So there's certain parts where you like have to lose and you have to win or something like that. So there's moments like, let's say you outsmart the computers of that time. You'll see them just zip past you like they were just made out of lightning. And you're like, what's going on? So there are a few moments of that, but it was a very stylish game. We were talking about that a little bit earlier, and it's a really good game. I love the music. I'm definitely there for the music.
I think that's important too, to like have games that you are forced to lose. Yeah. I don't know. You're triggering something in my like little childhood memory. I remember I would always restart every Need for Speed race if I came in second.
Really?
Like if I didn't come in first, I would stop, restart that race. And I think it's important to have games too where it forces you to lose, so you actually live the part of this, character that you're driving for.
Right.
Need for Speed, you really don't have an identity as a driver. It's just like what the car you pick in that map. So
exactly.
I actually really never put those things together. I always played Midnight Club separately from Need for Speed Underground, but I think as a kid I didn't really know why I would pick one or the other.
Yeah.
Maybe that's it.
And crazy enough, you mentioned it. I didn't even think about it. Was most, if I'm not mistaken, it should be Most Wanted. There's actually the storyline. Someone sabotages like either your fuel line or your starter, and you actually like have to lose that first race, and you get busted by the cops.
Really?
Yeah.
See, but like that's
and you're racing for pink
it,
slips too, and it's like they took your car.
You're arrested and they took your car.
Took your car, arrested, down in the dumps. Start your game.
I think some games need that though.
Yeah,
truly. Whenever you look at Need for Speeds, those are games that, and it's going to be it's clearly about cars. Yeah. But there has to be some gimmick, and I don't like that to be used negatively, but that's the gimmick for each one. Hot Pursuit, it's cops.
Right.
Heat, it's cops. Most Wanted, it's cops. Whenever you got to Underground, it actually wasn't cops. It was being fly.
Really, yeah.
Being fly and having good
moving
music.
Quick, yeah.
Let's do a little transition, and I need you to pop this one open.
Okay.
Gran Turismo. We're talking about really realistic OG. Yeah. That's that, I think, brand standard for racing games. If you say racing game, someone's gonna think Gran Turismo.
Right.
What was your experience with it?
That I am an amateur driver. I shouldn't be behind a wheel. I thought I was doing things right. After playing Gran Turismo, you understand that they made this game to be as realistic as possible. And once you try to understand it, then you start understanding the mechanics of how power sliding is, how drifting actually happens, how you're supposed to, break into your turns. I think the other games we talked about are very forgiving, extremely forgiving on how you take your turns and stuff like that, because they want you to have fun for the most part. Gran Turismo wants you to be a professional. You play that, you're trying to be a professional. And there is a big reward to nailing turns. There is a big reward to tackling certain terrains. If I'm not mistaken, there's even, I think the latest Gran Turismo is one of the hardest platinums that's known. And you actually get if I'm not mistaken, the first year of them making it, and I'll double check this, they actually sent out platinum trophies. I have to double check
the year mark.
Yo, for sure. Yeah. If I knew that when I was really getting into platinums, yeah, I probably would have been sweating every night doing that. But to just kind of wrap in a full perspective for anyone that hasn't played racing games or people that play Gran Turismo, it's definitely one of those games where there is an element of fun, but the level of like investment that you need to do into it to make sure that you're hitting everything right, that's where the pressure is. That's where the real fun is.
I could see. I mean, I could see that when we talk about these other games. It's like, you know, having fun with others. We're talking about the music. We're talking about the ambiance. You're talking about the feel. As a mechanic, I would have a feeling that you would want to kind of know what the end outcome of the work you're doing is going to be.
Right.
I think the beauty of Gran Turismo is you do not need to be a millionaire to really work on cars, right? And there are ways that you can tweak maybe your favorite car, maybe the car you drive currently, maybe your dream car. And really it gives you that experience, kind of coming back to the sports games of playing as your hero. You get to play and race in your favorite vehicle. And I think the beauty of that is you're going to discover sometimes, hey, I really love these cars. This is exactly what I imagined. And sometimes it's not going to be. A great example is I drive a front-wheel drive car. I've driven an all-wheel drive car. I've never in my life driven rear-wheel drive vehicles. So whenever I drive something that has a lot of power and is rear-wheel drive, I tend to spin out. I tend to whip it a little bit, right? Because I'm just not used to it. Yeah. And I think that, you know, if I sat down in Gran Turismo, right, I had a wheel, I had the shifter, I had the actual pedals, that would give me that little bit of simulation of real life, making it tangible, so I could actually grow my skill. Right. I think whenever you play with a controller, you're going to get the concepts. Yeah. You're going to get the concepts of taking that turn properly, braking, like, you know, finding that line in the road. But it really, whenever you have the whole setup, it kind of makes you one with the machine, like you would be in real life, and you get to get a little feel of that. So I think it definitely fits a niche of happiness for people who are really into cars, where you don't have to go out and actually put your body on the line, work on something for 10 hours for it to not work. Right. Hit a couple buttons, let's see how it works, take it out. Oh, you know what? This didn't give me as much power as I expected. Let me go change it. Yeah. Instead of 10 hours out moving an engine, taking all the parts or pieces apart, and then, you know, it potentially not working. So I definitely think this is that game for people who really love cars. Yeah. Really love racing, and honestly, they have to have a little patience.
They do. It's, I mean, it really is something that you have to practice at, because just like you were mentioning with the lines, when I've played, I didn't realize at first, when for the very first time I was playing it, I didn't realize what the lines were really indicating, right? So I'm seeing red lines. I'm like, okay, why am I getting guides of red lines?
Can you give a description? Yeah. So right now, I'm someone who's never played Gran Turismo. Right. I've never raced. What are lines in racing, and what are lines specifically in Gran Turismo?
So picture lines as the right path to take when it comes to taking a turn, a straightaway, anything of that sort. So let's say you're coming up on a big turn. You're about to make a left, and you see this line kind of form and like curve just around. This would be the right way to go. Now, if it's red, that means you're coming into it too fast. You slow down, it hits green, that means you're right at the speed that you should be doing. That's why if you've anyone that's like thinking about getting into racing or anything of that, watch like F1. Watch like F1 just for a little bit, and you'll kind of see the line and the path that everyone follows. They'll even do like a diagram onto the screen sometimes, so you can visually see the best path to get through the whole lap. And that's what we're talking about. And it's one of the things that at the time I didn't realize what it was. And you could quickly see, because I'd be flying off the map as like everyone else is gliding through the turn. So
I think this is where there's a good differentiation between the Need for Speeds, the Forzas. Like, don't get me wrong, they're very fun. Yeah. But whenever it comes to that realisticness, the one area Gran Turismo really picked up is options. Yeah. Need for Speed, we just talked about categories. It has a gimmick, and each game is going to be built around the gimmick that you like. Right. Hey, I really like underground cars. I like, little coupes. I like those little lowered cars.
You're going to do it low.
Exactly. You're going to play an underground, or you're going to play a heat. I think what's cool about Gran Turismo is, from a beater to a car I could go pick out right now that's like, maybe $8,000 up to a supercar. Those are all options.
Yeah.
And that line is going to be relevant to that car itself. Like, to your point, if you're doing an F1 car, I don't drive F1. I don't watch it.
Yeah.
I'm going to drive that directly off the course because of the power. Whereas if I hop in that little Golf, even though the lap time is going to be tremendously slower,
Yeah.
the actual accuracy of me hitting it close to the correct time is going to be a lot closer because I'm a lot more comfortable with that vehicle.
Exactly.
I don't know. Gran Turismo, I think it's one of those games. What are we on? Gran Turismo like 7 or 8?
I believe
timeless.
7. Yeah, it's definitely timeless. And to kind of wrap up a good census of like what Gran Turismo is, it really is a more professional, but you need to learn control with your car. And there's so many different types of cars, just like you were mentioning, like rear, all-wheel drive, front-wheel drive, certain suspensions. So there's so many different ways that you can have a car, and it's really about the control. That's probably the biggest thing.
I love it.
Yeah.
Have you done the 24-hour race?
No, you were telling me about it, and I'm kind of intrigued. I kind of want to.
So there's a race in Gran Turismo. I don't know if it's in Gran Turismo 7, but it was definitely in Gran Turismo 2.
Okay.
My uncle was 34, so the same age as I am now. And I was 14 when my uncle was 34. So he comes down for Christmas break. He's got like 7 or 8 days. And one of the days he's like, hey, I really want to sit down and do this 24-hour race. And I'm thinking like, okay, 24 hours in game. It's going to be shorter minute. No. It is 24-hour real life time race. So the beauty is you can pause it, right? If you're just single player, you could play a couple hours one day, pause it, leave the PlayStation on, leave. We determined we were going to do it in 24 hours. We were not going to pause. And if there's a point where we needed to pause, you hand it off to the other person.
That's actually pretty funny.
So, we spent the day. I slept 4 hours, woke up. I played for 4 hours. He slept. He woke up. Then it was time for the day. And then, it's one of those little fun achievements, right? Unfortunately, there weren't trophies at the time. So this was more just for the bragging rights.
Yeah.
But it's, again, one of those things I appreciate. The challenge of this wasn't even necessarily the car. It was mentally being able to play that same race and maintain it for 24 hours.
Just having that capacity to make it through. That's actually really fun.
And you know as well as I do, someone did that in one sitting.
There's that one person.
There's a whole bunch of maniacs. You and I, if there was a trophy, I'd do it.
I would.
So that's how I know it existed. I know someone did it.
Okay, if the trophy said you couldn't pause 24 hours, would you do it?
Yeah, I would just have to get a friend and I would have to like tape it. Hopefully it'd be like a straightaway so I could just tape the controller.
What if you also had a place in the top 3? I think that's where it would probably
I don't know. Now it's too many things. I've lost the trophy.
You've lost the trophy.
Outside of Gran Turismo, right? When we talk about these realistic games, have you ever played Forza?
I haven't played Forza. Can you tell me a little bit about it?
So Forza fits into the category of Gran Turismo in the sense of it has so many cars to pick from. They're all hyper realistic in the way that they function in real life, from the interiors to the sounds of the engine, like all of the things that any person who's really into cars would look into. Badges, all those things are going to be accurate. Okay. Where it's a little different from Gran Turismo is the ease of connecting with friends and driving around.
Okay.
You could just join my game. We'd be at a garage. We could pick whatever car we want and we could whip around town. We go out to the mountains. We could drive through valleys. You could go to somewhere snowy. And I think that appeal and that simplicity of being able to connect and just drive around is really what brought me to Forza over Gran Turismo.
Gotcha.
It is a little more forgiving, when we talk about the other games that you really could slam into the wall and kind of just keep speeding. You don't have that option in Forza, but it's not as hyper realistic as like a Gran Turismo, where if you go into a turn 15 miles per hour over, right, you're not going to spin out. You'll be able to maintain it. So Forza still is for those people who are like really into cars. You can really customize it. You can have all this fun, but also like simple people like me who I'm not a great racer. I really don't know the mechanics of a vehicle.
Right.
I still can compete.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, I like that. It definitely gives you a kind of mid-tier where you can kind of work your way up. If you were trying to go towards Gran Turismo, or if you just wanted a little bit more of a challenge, it would definitely take that forgiveness a little bit away, so you have that extra like step to yourself. I like that.
Well, and I think Forza, it still is a lot of fun with just a controller. I think some games you really need a setup. You need like I don't think you need a rig, like a whole eSIM.
Yeah.
But like I think having the wheel and the actual pedals for a handful of the games would be useful. Gran Turismo obviously is an example.
Yeah.
Forza, I think it can go either way. I think that that's like a healthy medium. The reason I bring that up is Assetto Corsa. Have you ever played it?
No, I haven't.
That is a sim racing game, and I think that is the graduation for people who love Gran Turismo. They've decided, I really want to get into cars more. I really want to understand how cars feel.
Okay.
That's where this game fits. And the reason I bring that up is my friend has a whole rig. You can get into it. I don't even want to ask him how much it cost. It literally feels like a vehicle.
They look fun. Every rig I've seen definitely looks fun, but I can tell, just like you mentioning like the pricing and stuff like that, I know it's something that maybe way in the future I retire or something like that, I set up a bunch of rigs, but they do look very immersive and worth the fun at the end of it.
I mean, I think that you know cars better than I do, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you drive, depending on obviously the quality of your wheel, his wheel hurt my wrists. Like when
really?
I wrecked, it whipped out of my hands and it like hurt my wrist. And I'm like, okay, like this is like driving a real car.
Yeah.
You look at that Gran Turismo and that's that person looking to upgrade a vehicle, win a race, go up in the rankings.
Yeah.
Assetto Corsa doesn't really have rankings. Okay. You're getting in and you're driving cars you like to get comfortable with the car, or guess what? You just like driving.
Right.
It's the same as people driving around in these 18-wheeler eSIMs. Have you seen those? They drive trucks, like they deliver stuff. You really got to love trucking, right? You really got to love delivering stuff. I think Assetto Corsa allows people who love racing, who love cars, to be able to do that in a safe environment. Mm-hmm. You don't have to physically go out and actually race your car. It does feel real. Because, depending on the setup you have, like it does feel like you're racing a real car in real life. But you're not risking anyone's life. You're not risking your vehicle. You're not risking money, sweat, tears, potentially heartache. I think it is the modern day king of racing games.
Okay.
If I'm being really candid, I think that Gran Turismo was the start. I think, 15, 20 years ago, that was the head honcho. If you were into cars, you played Gran Turismo. If you were into video games, right?
Yeah.
I think Forza was just that little refreshment we needed over the last 15 years. Forza really has come out, gives you a little grace, but has a high skill cap. So if you want to really race, you can. Assetto Corsa is just like you're a racer in real life and you want to do it at home and not wear and tear in your car. I think it's a really cool game. And like, to be really candid, when you look at these big box games of Forza or Gran Turismo, it's like, hey, the next time that there's a DLC is when you get new cars, or, not a lot of people like that. They don't want to wait for a DLC. Assetto Corsa is like a live running game that they're adding stuff all the time. They're adding new environments. They're adding places to see people. They're adding different elements physically, like not elements into the game, like elements that affect the way that the car drives. And again, like that's what people who are racing cars want. They want experience. And like, I don't want to go race my car out in full rain to see what it feels like. I'd much rather try it instead of Corsa, wreck a couple times, be like, okay, let me get this down.
Yeah.
I totally agree. I think Gran Turismo has a professionalism to it.
Yeah.
And it's whenever you look at Ferrari and they're like, hey, we don't want you actually doing modifications to our car outside of these parameters, right? And if you do, you're on a blacklist. Yeah. Gran Turismo has a feel that they're going to maintain because that's their brand. I'm not gonna dog on them for it. Hey, I love it. Yeah, you fit a specific area.
Yeah,
but I do think Assetto Corsa and games of that nature will start to grow, and I think it'll like eat up a little bit of share of those really big gearheads who are looking for like a healthy game for them to hop into, and they don't feel like they're wasting time and actually learning about vehicles too.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, well, before we jump into super fun games, because there's a lot of racing games on here that we're about to get
There's
goofy.
a lot.
They're about to get goofy. But there is one more kind of serious racing game that I really enjoyed. Have you ever done any rally games?
You know, I want to say the closest thing to a rally game I played was, and this kind of ties back into Need for Speed. It was actually Payback and Need for Speed Heat as well, which I didn't mention. So if you want, I can mention those too.
Tell me about Heat.
So Heat is probably my favorite Need for Speed at this current moment. You have it where you have the element to kind of do street racing, drifting, and also off-road. And the way that you design your cars, because you can customize them, of course, you can make it fit the bill. That's probably the best way to say it. You can make it where it's kind of all over. You can make it where it's just a drift car. You can make it where it's really just a sports car. And the police officers in this game are like the most aggressive I've ever seen out of everything. I was trying to find a good clip, and I think I have a few clips I'll show you later, but I've seen like cop cars fly above me.
It's like Bad in the Beehive. They're just coming at you for blood.
Vicious. And I know you saw a split part where, like, to kind of give some context, you can have like up to like 5 stars, almost like GTA. On the 5th star, they send something called a Rhino, and it's a SWAT car, and they just send it at you.
Hold on, let me give a little context. It is a SWAT car. Imagine a SWAT van, with a snowplow front. That's what it is. It's like you're underplaying it. A large, dense vehicle with a snowplow front that drives directly at you. Its intentions not to slow you down, it is to kill you.
It directly kill you. They want you off the road. Any means necessary.
I'll be honest. I think, even we just mentioned 4 Need for Speed games, and they're all completely different.
They are.
They have elements of similarity, right? But like they're all completely different.
Yeah. And I know I mentioned Payback for a second. Payback was probably the walking steps for Heat, because it kind of had the same element, but not to a high level customization. So you had it where, I can purchase a off-road car. I can purchase a drag racing car. That they kind of took it away a little bit in Heat, but in Payback, you actually had it where you're just doing drag races, and you had to have your own drag racing car, which was really cool. You had to get your shifts down really well. But when it comes down to tie back to your question, when it comes to playing off-road games, it was definitely Payback and probably Heat, because they had their own certain section of playing that element.
I like that. I actually like that you could pick different vehicles and kind of, I don't want to say wing it, but maybe don't pick an off-road vehicle, and you kind of have to have a little bit more skill to manage.
Right.
The one that I played a lot was Dirt and Dirt 2.
Okay.
When it comes to racing games, I think there's like a niche where, like, again, if you're a gearhead, you kind of have an idea of how the car runs and how to optimize your lap times.
Yeah.
In street racing, like in racing specifically that's in cities that has concrete. Dirt being completely off-road, being on different types of outdoor tracks, just added an element that very few people are skilled at. That very few people are driving down back roads
all the time,
going 60, hitting gravel, feeling that slippy, slidey, kind of almost feels like you're driving on ice. And it adds an element of excitement, because you're not actually driving as fast. You play a lot of these games and your car's going over 200 miles per hour, and cool. I love that. Real life, not really happening.
Right.
This is a lot more keen towards real life, where you're going 55, 60, 70, but you're going 70 through a thick set of woods,
or like a mudslide,
or on a cliff.
Yeah.
No pun intended. And it's kind of funny, because you look at those things and it's like, okay, I like racing. I don't care what my car looks like in dirt.
Yeah.
I can't see it. It's covered in mud. But what I do care about is getting air, having that angle, hitting the ground, or tearing it up, and being able to catch that next turn. I think also an element that you just don't get in a lot of games is a passenger. Your passenger has a lot of effect on the way that you play. And granted, if you don't play with the cues, You just look at the map, and that's how
Right.
you figure it out. I play with the passenger that speaks that tells you hard right, hard left, 45 left, 90 left.
Question: have you heard and I know this is just a clip that is stuck in my head. It's a guy yelling triple threat.
No.
I'm gonna find it for you later, but
I want you to show me the second
he's
we're
in
done.
the car and he's guiding him, just like you were saying, and he's trying to guide him, and it's just going wrong at every turn. So that was the first thing that came to mind.
This
And
is what
that's
you'd
really
experience in the game.
That's awesome.
This, like, the first time you play it, that's what's gonna happen, because like you don't know what a triple threat left is.
Yeah,
You don't
like,
know what a
he's-
45 left is.
He was screeching at him. He was trying to save him.
Dirt absolutely filled a void that I had never filled before. Like it really showed me, like, okay, maybe I am into racing games. Maybe I actually do like competitive, standing based games, aka like first, second, third, your podium racing.
Right.
There's a lot of games too where like there's a racing element added in, and it doesn't involve a start and finish.
What do you mean?
What do
Dude.
I mean?
Before I get an answer for you on that, doing like these type of racing games, having it where you're actually like in terrain, like most racing games, you're driving through a city, driving on the back roads, stuff like that. You're on pavement, and that's pretty much it. You're getting a nice scenery, but to be actually going through terrain, I can see the appeal to it just by that alone. By everyone that I've played, I mean, there's certain like small dirt ramps to wide giant turns that you just wind up getting stuck in. It's almost like a theme park for cars.
I think we need to stop there. It is like a theme park. And to answer your question, there's games that have racing, but then they also have other elements added in that is fun, that doesn't involve first, second, third. So let me give you 5.
Okay.
And we'll come back and we'll kind of dive into them. Rush, Mario Kart, Crash Team Racing,
Yeah.
Diddy Kong Racing, or Mod National Racer or Mod Nation Racer. I always say national because I've got problems, but it's actually Mod Nation Racer. These 5 games all have racing.
Right.
All of them are racing games. Now, Rush, the reason I bring this up, old N64 game, it added wings at one point, and it did have terrain where every 5 seconds there is a hidden path. I know I showed you a video, and it's like every 2 seconds there is a shortcut.
And some of them are crazy. Like the one he was going through was like neon lights kind of a little bit and stuff like that. And even seeing him do that flip with having the wings come out, we were talking about how this was kind of like how like other games were able to walk off of this. Could you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I mean, when you look at Rush, right? Rush is a racing game. There are standings. It is first through 15. But to your point, there's wings. So maybe I take a shortcut. I'm driving through San Francisco. There's a bunch of zigzags. You got to take a bunch of lefts and rights, and you're gonna lose out in speed. Or I'm gonna crank it, pull out those wings. I'm gonna do a little backflip, little spinny spin.
Little 1-2.
I'm gonna land. I'm gonna take off. Right. I think Rush having that element made that game fun back in the early 2000s. I think it's the elements that allowed Rocket League to be successful. Right.
Gotcha.
You have a game that's cars and soccer. What do we do to make it more mobile? Oh, well, we added flying. And it's not necessarily wings, right? It is boosters, but it's the principle of, I think, a lot of people who are our age who played those games got inspiration from that for games in the future.
Right.
I also think that Rush could have been a little bit of what played into wings being in Mario Kart.
For sure.
Mario Kart's on the list because, yes, you do race most of the time, and you want to come in first, right?
Yep.
You don't want to get hit with that blue shell. But there's versus. There's battle mode.
There is
the mode where you have the balloons on you. You drive around with 3 balloons.
just
And
3.
your whole intent is to ruin your significant other's day.
Yep.
Not my wife. I'm kidding. But well, we don't play because we played once and I destroyed her and she's like, never again.
He's like,
I
this is
think
off the list.
I think some of these games you grow so accustomed to the racing elements from other things that you have to have something that catches you.
Yeah.
You know, Rush, that's an old one. I think it had elements that went to other games. Mario Kart's still amazing.
Oh yeah, no, it absolutely is. And I think just the last thing on Rush, even the shortcuts, if you really take a look at the diaphragm of like all of it, it really is almost like a carbon copy for Mario Kart. If you look at it, because there's so many different shortcuts, and there's a lot of shortcuts that you can find in Mario Kart when you play it. So I like that you mentioned that people that probably played that game previously, developers, look back and they're like, this is how we should make like the next generation of games.
I totally agree, and I think that's where, like, to your point, Mario Kart, the shortcuts, the only way to really utilize them generally is to be a good racer.
Right.
You need to know how to drift, you need to know how to get the little red flames, you need to
Yeah.
know how to jump. But if you know how to do those things, you can utilize the shortcuts. And that's where I think it adds layers inside the game.
Yeah.
Where you can play with the niece and nephew, you can play with the family and have fun, even if they're, trash. And then you have the highly competitive ones where it really is coming down to corners, taking edges, maybe the RNG on what items you get from a cube, right?
Right.
But that's what makes it fun. Not one person's going to win every single game because they're just better. Guess what? I'm gonna crush you with a blue shell, and then a red shell, and then another one, and then another one, and then a green shell. But like, it's funny because that's an element on top. That, like, for Mario Kart in particular, I'm never bored. I'm gonna have fun whether I win, whether I lose. It's kind of irrelevant.
It's just a fun time, and give you guys like a small little like fun thing that you can do. When it comes to the items that you get in Mario Kart, you get them depending on the place you're at. So if you want to do a nice little party trick, let's say you're like decent or like good at Mario Kart, the moment the match starts, put down your controller and stretch. Just stretch as if like nothing in the world, nothing of a care, and then start. And I'll tell you right now, you'll give them a lead, but you'll have all the best items. And the way that you climb back up, it becomes a nice little fun, like little treat you can throw at them.
Getting crushed by lightning 5 times.
Yeah. Oh, you're just
that's it. Lightning.
You're giving it to
you're
them
small.
the whole time. Yeah. And I think that kind of ties into how Mario Kart wants to make sure that you're having fun as you're playing it. Because if you fall back far enough, it's going to give you the stuff to catch up. If you're up front too far, it's going to give you the stuff to not go that far, but maybe just slow some people down. So everyone stays within the same area for the most part. Sometimes people really they can hit that skill cap, but it's definitely meant to have fun.
I'll be honest, I think that you really are highlighting, also it's to keep you in the same area of happiness.
Yeah.
There are people who are playing some games to win, right? When we talk about these really serious racing games, people are not playing Need for Speed or Gran Turismo to have fun. I mean, there is fun elements to it.
Right.
The fun is winning. The fun is having a fast car. The fun is progressing down the storyline and having
number one.
Absolutely. Mario Kart, I think if that's what you're focused on, you've lost the goal of the game.
Yeah.
The goal of the game is to have fun with your friends or to have fun with people, to have fun with these characters. Even if you're not playing with anyone, having fun with Mario while you play.
Right.
That's the intent of the game. Sure, winning is important. Like I'm sometimes a sore loser, but Mario is one of those games where if you're just focused on winning, you may be losing sight of the point of the game. The point of the game,
the very point.
Race, have fun, unlock new stuff because there's literally hundreds of items, and then share it with others. Share that experience with others. Share it with your nieces and nephews.
Throw
share
a
with
green
kids.
shell. Land that hit. It's very rewarding.
hand out sadness to people. Invite them over, destroy them. But no, like joking aside, that really is it. The whole point of some of these games, specifically the Mario Karts, the CTR, which is a Crash Team Racing, or Diddy Kong, it's to have fun.
Yeah.
Now, did you play Diddy Kong Racing?
I didn't play Diddy Kong Racing. Small mention for Crash Team Racing. That was my
going to
very
Crash.
first.
Tell me about Crash first, and I'll tell you about Diddy Kong.
Crash, man, it holds a very special spot in my heart because I think Crash Bandicoot was like one of the first characters.
Boogada.
Yeah, come on. He acted like a fool. Absolutely loved it. He was one of the first characters that I really enjoyed as a kid. And the way that it plays very similar to Mario Kart. But instead of for example, getting a star, you get Aku Aku flying around you. And for him to just like be beating on the drums as he's like flying around you, you're tearing people up. It was a really fun game, and they even made like a really good storyline to it, where you had to go through like different characters as bosses, like to race them to get to different areas and get new maps. It was just a really enjoyable game, and it holds a special spot for sure. There's definitely Crash Team Racing, there's the tag team racing as well, where you're kind of working hand in hand with the person you're racing with. And then there is Turbo. They like really introduced like drifting. That was like their first like really give like a lot of like love to drifting, and that was a really fun game too. So
see, I really need to go back and replay that game a little, because
it's good.
I didn't play CTR a lot.
Yeah.
I played a lot of Mario Kart, right? It has that fun element, has the drifting element.
Yeah.
I will say, as Mario Kart went on and added reverse and added higher CCs, it definitely made it more challenging. Diddy Kong Racing,
tell me about it,
is different than CTR and it's different than Mario Kart in the sense of certain maps had better vehicles. So when you played, you would have the option of a car, you'd have the option of a plane or a boat.
Really? Okay.
And some you literally could not use a boat, which was crazy. You're like, why would they allow you to pick a boat? Like, hey, if you want to ruin the race for yourself, you can. But it's crazy because there's like ice levels where the boat was amazing. Because you could, I mean, you're sliding, it would slide down the hill, had good traction, you could slide across the water. It was intended to be on water, so you could just take shortcuts, but like, you had to be smart. The plane, guess what? The plane's not going to hit any obstacles because you're in the air for the most part, but you go like one speed. So if you really know how to drift and you know where those little boxes are, you know where the power, you're going to cook the guy in the air. If it's a really highly competitive game and everyone's basically just destroying each other, I am going to go to the air. I am going to be slower, but I'm not going to get destroyed on the ground. So it kind of like added a little chaos to every map.
I can see it.
Because like you'd have a map where everyone's in cars and one idiot's in a boat and you're just like, what is he doing? There'd be somewhere like there'd be mad planes, there'd be half planes, half cars, and like halfway through the race you'd realize we're killing each other. These planes are getting away. We gotta stop. And we gotta just race for a minute. And it added an element to each map that it would kind of change what was happening. On top of it, a little cherry on top for the completionists out there, you could get the Kong word. Like if you played Diddy Kong or Donkey Kong, any of those old games, Kong was something you had to get in each map. Mm-hmm. That was in this too, which would lead you to unlock other characters or new vehicles. So you had the racing part, you had the element of picking different vehicles, and the vehicles absolutely changed how it played. The map and terrain absolutely affected how you would interact with each other. Yeah. And then cherry on top is you have to win a race and get Kong to unlock all of the things, which it's hard.
That sounds really good. I'm actually really curious, what type of characters are in it? Is it just like within like Donkey Kong's like realm, or does it extend out to like Mario, or like what does that look like?
I actually don't remember. We'd have to look it up.
Okay, that'll be a cliff note.
Diddy Kong Racing, we could definitely look up the characters, but I will say, Diddy Kong Racing, CTR, Mario Kart, absolutely all fall into that same category of just wonky, fun. Yeah. Can't take it too serious. Have to take it a little serious because you will get just destroyed. But taking it too serious also can be a detriment.
For sure. There's actually one more. I showed just a clip of it to you. It's actually Little Big Planet karting. Okay. And this one, I love how like when we look at all of them, they all have like this small like shining piece to them. And Little Big Planet karting had it for just, of course, building. So you could do the races that they had. You can do the storyline that they kind of set up. You can truly customize your cart, and there's a few different ways you can make it, but you can also make your own map, and you can make your own like full course if you'd like to. And I think that's where, the old like other Little Big Planet like games, it's all about creativity.
I would like to, just for the record. When you're like, hey, if you'd like to, I want to make my own map.
I want to make my own map. I want to make like a crazy map. I would love to see that.
Was there a limit to the amount of items? Was it a limit to the amount of space? Because Little Big Planet has a lot to pick from.
The space was so like massive. If you were building a course for maybe like 4 hours, then you might hit a limit. That just to kind of give you an idea, you could really go crazy. They gave you the opportunity, and that's what their whole pitch is like, we want to just have it where there's no limitations on what the imagination you have with all the tools we give you. So that's a really cool one.
I mean, it sounds like a pretty awesome game. To be honest, you're whenever you brought up this game, I think of PlayStation because it's Little Big Planet.
Yeah.
And immediately, I think of Mod Nation Racer. You know, I'd mentioned at the beginning.
Yeah, that's right.
It really fits that kind of same category. Imagine you're me from Nintendo whenever you'd make the little character that looked like you.
Right.
Add that to PlayStation and add little Mario Kart carts. Like, it was PlayStation's version of Mario Kart.
Yeah.
I think
like
the
it.
beauty that Little Big Planet had that they brought to Mod Nation Racers, you really could create whoever you wanted. You know, one of my friends, he had John Cena, and he had like a gremlin, and he had, you know, superheroes like Wolverine or Gambit, and it's just, you could make any character you wanted.
I can't picture John Cena flying above me just yet. Dun, 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 dun.
Exactly. And it really was left to your own creativity. For him, loves John Cena, made it happen, right? I love games where the creativity is left in the player's hands.
Yeah.
And that's like actually an element of the game. You know, Little Big Planet, super cutesy.
Right.
What makes it amazing is the physics.
Yep.
The options for your creativity, and to be like really honest, the agelessness of it. You could be 5, you could be 55, you could be 95.
You can.
There's fun in it. If you like video games, you're gonna enjoy this game.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that. You know, oh, Dime.
I was thinking about it. I was like, man, what character would I make? I would probably try to make Speed Racer. I think that would be a really cool character.
If I was gonna make one, I'd make Bill Burr.
Who's that?
It's a comedian. He's an angry comedian.
Would he be yelling like?
He would just be
Fahrenheit?
bald and kind of red.
And just kind of red.
And he'd be like, "It's not my job, it's yours. I'm a dancing clown." That's what he'd say.
As
as
he drives
goes,
by,
you know? That's kind of what I would do.
I like it.
I am so appreciative that, you know, we've covered games that are for people who are into cars,
Yeah.
into gaming. They want to get a little bit deeper, but they're like, hey, I'm not really a gearhead. And that's like those Need for Speeds, the Midnight Clubs. Gran Turismo, Forza, Assetto Corsa, I think really fits that niche for like, I want to race a car.
Mm-hmm.
I want it to be professional. I want it to feel like real life. You know, we highlighted Rush, Mario Kart, CTR, Diddy Kong Racing, Mod Nation Racer. These are goofy, fun. I probably wouldn't take it as serious because it's not the intent. The intent is to play this with others and then have a fun time. Those games all fit its own little niche. Now, I want to just bring up some old classics that maybe, you know, fell by the wayside, but the characters survived. Have you ever heard of F-Zero Racing?
No, I haven't.
So F-Zero Racing is toboggan racing, essentially. You race it in like a little bobsled-esque vehicle. Now, it's from the future, so they're not bobsleds. They're blasting with jets.
Oh, you had mentioned this. For reference, think of like pod racers from Star Wars. That's probably like a really good reference.
Yeah.
We can kind of
Imagine a bobsled that floats and flies in the air, exactly like a pod racer, and that's exactly their car.
Okay.
That's exactly what it looks like. Captain Falcon came from that series. And I think a lot of times when you hear some characters, you're like, oh, I know Captain Falcon. I played Smash Brothers. Yeah, he actually originated in a racing game.
This was news to me, by the way. So if you're surprised as well, like, listen, it was just one of the things I was like, man, like I didn't even think about it. And I remember playing one of the maps and you actually like land on his car while you're playing Smash. I remember so vividly, and I didn't think, oh, he originated from like a racing game. I couldn't picture that. He was punching people. I thought he came from a fighting game or something of the sort.
Well, and look, we talk about Crash Team Racing. We have a character that's not a racer that comes into racing.
Right.
Mario's not originally from a racing game, but we have Mario Kart. Yes. Then you have F-Zero, which is a racing game. Kind of fell by the wayside, but we have this really dope character, Captain America. Let's pull him out. I I think just racing as a whole, the genre,
Mhm.
just has so many areas you can fall into to like have fun.
Yeah.
Have you played any racing games that come from a genre that has nothing to do with racing? I'll give you an example. WCW Crush Hour.
Listen, when I saw this, you saw that I was waiting for. I had to sit there and kind of process what I was seeing. Tell me what you think.
So, Crush Hour, WCW Crush Hour, falls into a very specific category of racing game. Now, the reason we start with this one, this is not the one that stood the test of time. It's a piece of crap. It is the worst. But as a wrestler, as a kid, as a wrestling fan, I wasn't a wrestler. As a wrestling fan and as a kid, seeing everyone's intro, getting to hear their music that they came out to, and then to play a racing game where it is a battle royale, I'm about it. I loved it. I feel so deeply in my heart that WCW Crush Hour walked, so Twisted Metal and Vigilante 8, those battle royale type games could run and thrive.
Yeah.
It was not executed well. The characters looked like thumbs. I will say, and as you said, the voice tracking, the actual graphics they did for them speaking, I'll give it 10 out of 10 for the time.
Actually, for their time, that was a 10 out of 10.
10 out of 10 for their time.
Not disputed. Like, that was actually really accurate.
I will say the sound effects in the game, very questionable. The stereo sounds and the lack of actual vehicle sounds, a little eerie.
Yeah. It's just enough where you're like, it's drawing too much attention where you're not paying attention to the game.
Absolutely.
That it's like just enough where you're like, what is that? What am I here? Yeah.
But again, I think that's where it opened the door for Twisted Metal and Vigilante 8 to come in. They had cool cars.
Yeah.
They had cool superpowers. They had memorable characters. Sweet Tooth.
Yeah.
Sweet Tooth is one of the most memorable characters from something that I was not interested in.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
Like, I know who Sweet Tooth is.
Yeah.
Immediately off the top of my head.
Yeah. And I've played Twisted Metal, and like hearing this now and seeing that, I can definitely see how it walked and then it started to run. Because it is this same like format. It's spot on. But the way that they did Twisted Metal, there was just like a certain different level of danger to it versus like the wrestling.
I should pause. I've been negligent. I was talking about the wrestling game. I mentioned it's like a battle royale, and we're talking about racing games. I could see how someone would be like, "What do you mean?" What I mean, all three of these games, WCW, Crush Hour, Vigilante 8, Twisted Metal, they are games where you pick a vehicle, you have stats, and you have weapons attached to your vehicle. When you enter the game, you have, let's say, 20 lives, or you have to kill someone 20 times, or you have to survive out so you're the last person living. You then drive around the map that has obstacles that can kill you.
Yeah.
There are things built into the map to trick you so you die. And on top of it, you have weapons and power-ups so you can kill other people. There's no blood. It's just cars exploding. But the principle is you're driving around, you're racing to survive, but there's no standings. The standings are your lives or how many kills you have, because it could be a team deathmatch. Exactly. So I did want to pause and say, we're still talking about racing games, but these were a niche category of racing games that came out where the only intention was to kill each other.
Yeah. I mean, essentially, I love that you paused and kind of mentioned that, because it is its own niche of like battle royale. But of course, you're not trying to complete a lap or anything, but it's really just offense and defense.
It really is.
And you're using your way of moving around to utilize your offense and defense, have the high ground, stuff like that. So it is still potentially a racing game, but it's not with the goal of let me get past this like line. It's I need to destroy everybody here.
And if you want that element and racing, the games like that exist. Yeah. Burnout 3, Burnout Paradise, any of the Burnout series.
I actually remember Burnout Paradise too.
Yeah, like really the intent of this game is there's a handful of modes, and I'll just go over two of them. Let's go over the racing mode. Me and Cliff, we're racing. There are standings 1st through 12th, but your car can get destroyed. So as you're driving, people are actively trying to actually wreck you. Not like spin you out. They're trying to like drive you into a bus so your car will explode.
Yeah.
You'll sit there for 5 seconds till it gets done exploding. Then there'll be another 3 seconds. Then you'll respawn, and then you continue the race.
Right.
The other mode that you have in Burnout is Cliff and I versus each other. I go first. The stage will reset, and you try to wreck your car into traffic and cause the most amount of damage.
Now, he showed me a video of this, and I thought it was really cool. Think of, there's a very, like, not a lot of people will know this game. It's a very, like, hidden game. It's a game called Dismount, and potentially you're in a car, you kind of send it off in a certain way, and you just crash into things. You try to get, like, a high score. It's potentially this. I thought it was really cool because you're trying to get more combos, and I even saw that like once you get a certain amount of damage, you can actually like explode your car again, so you can kind of just keep it going, trying to build up that combo. I thought that was actually really cool.
I love that you bring it up. So the element that made the doing damage replayable, I guess would be the best way to put it, is the traffic would always be different.
Right.
To your point, when you did damage, there was a percentage 1 to 100%. If you got it to 100, it would allow you to explode your car and fly through the air towards other debris, other cars, maybe cause a bigger accident. But most importantly, there are little street signs in the map, and there's a 2 time, a 3 times, a 5 times, and one that takes away all your points.
Your multipliers.
So the beauty is you're playing in a lot of the multipliers, you know, you might get a 3-time point, and you get all these explosions, but then it blows your car into a reset. And I have to admit, I used to take my backpack and hide my PlayStation 2, and I would go into church, and I would find a hidden room with a TV, and I would not turn on the lights, and I'd plug in my PlayStation, and I would get kids. I'd see kids walk by, like, hey, come in here, play Burnout with me. And it's just so crazy because I look back and I don't feel that a lot of my friends or people I gamed with were big into racing games.
Yeah, it's definitely something I think has grown over the time just because of like what people have as an option now. And there's a lot more friendlier options for sure.
I mean, look what we just talked about. We've talked about serious racing. We've talked about semi-serious racing games that have like a lot of availability and options. We talked about goofy games that are intended to just be fun. This game's not even intended to race. Your whole principle is like, how sweet of an explosion or accident can I get in?
Right.
And you suck. And it's just so funny because it's such a like, what? You're wrecking your car and you're trash talking me? It's like, yeah, I've crashed my car so much better than you. And it's just such a weird space to be in for a game.
You don't know how to crash your car?
Yeah, like
Come
you
on.
can't crash your car and get a multiplier, you dummy.
You flip your car like this.
And it just was I think a game for me as a kid where my expectations were flipped upside down. I'm like, I don't want to play this racing game. Played it once, I was like, maybe I do want to play this racing game for 100 hours.
Right. And you know, like thinking about just that moment, I think, have you heard of Just Cause?
No, tell me about it.
Just Cause is potentially a game where you just like destroy things. And
Just Cause?
Yeah, Just Cause. Yeah, Just Cause. Literally Just Cause. And they've come out with like 4 games. I haven't played them, but I think moments of seeing like destruction like that, it ties me into like moments like this. I'm like, okay, like I can see that clearly. Maybe someone didn't see this directly, but this is something that could stem from it. This is something that could grow from it.
No, and I really love that because I think there has to be some games that fit that niche of like, I just want to do whatever I want to do.
Right.
And I want to have fun. I think the racing game, more racing oriented, right? Because you're talking about Just Cause and you could blow stuff up and it could be maybe an adventure game on top of it.
Yeah.
Crazy Taxi.
Oh,
what are you doing? You're literally just driving. You can't even get out of the taxi, but my God, I drove all over that town.
The suspension on that car is crazy.
That taxi,
you're swinging that car. You're swinging that car.
So tell me your thoughts. I think a lot of us who are gamers or have ever dabbled in games have an experience with Crazy Taxi.
Yeah.
What was that first time you played? What's the most memorable thing? What's the thing that stuck out that you remember most about that game?
Just like barely making it on time. That's the biggest thing that always stuck out, and that was the fun of it. I mean, you're racing across town, and there's like I think the mechanics to the car, it just felt really like bouncy, really just everywhere. You're crashing into stuff. Like, it really seemed like you're a maniac, like an absolute maniac. Whoever was hopping in the car and they needed to get somewhere, like, they didn't bat an eye on how you were driving, but you were gonna get them there, you know, like.
I do know. I think that it's so funny that you're talking about how extra it is, the suspension. I think why I like that game so much was it was unabashedly extra.
Yeah. Oh,
everything.
For sure.
The color, the driving, the way people, hey, I need a ride.
Yeah.
Like, who talks like
it was
that?
Unapologetic on the way that it was doing everything it was doing. You're spot on. Yeah. I absolutely loved it for that.
Crazy Taxi had so much character. You know what's actually so funny? If someone asked me, like, what is Crazy Taxi? I would ask them if they've ever heard ska music. Have you ever heard ska music?
No.
Yeah, well, that's your homework. I think if you were to describe Crazy Taxi, you could just play a ska song.
Okay.
And you'd be like, this in a video game form, and that is how you describe Crazy Taxi. It's absurd, but trust me, if you just look it up, you'll know what I mean.
Or a snowboarding game.
Ooh.
That we remember.
Oh,
yeah.
Don't even bring up 1080.
I know.
I'll lose my mind right now. Crazy Taxi, and I don't want to be that guy, is I think a game that was more accessible for more people.
Yeah.
I think Crazy Taxi was the one that, like, if you had a Dreamcast or you went to an arcade, you played it.
Yeah.
Did you ever play Simpsons Hit and Run?
I did. And right before we get into that, because I'm going to love talking about Simpsons Hit and Run. Crazy Taxi, just like to your point, being in arcades, it was very accessible. So it's one of those games that I feel like everyone has heard of or at least seen.
Physically seen it in person.
Yeah, like at least physically seen. I think it was one of the like games that was really out there.
I think what's really important to highlight too is Crazy Taxi did come out 5 years before Simpsons Hit and Run. So, whenever you look at competition, like, they weren't in competition with each other. One is a successor.
Yeah.
And, I think what speaks volumes is, yes, I actually think more people would identify and think, hey, I've heard of Crazy Taxi. And more than if you were like, hey, have you heard of Hit and Run or Simpsons Hit and Run? I think that someone might need to see it to know that that's that Crazy Taxi version of the Simpsons game.
Yeah.
But it did sell 10 times more copies than Crazy Taxi. So, when you look at 1999, Crazy Taxi comes out, it sells 1.2 million copies, right? That's a lot.
It is.
But it built such a following, and it carved out such an important area of like racing gaming, because it's so particular. It's its own thing.
Yeah.
That it allowed the space for Simpsons Hit and Run in 2004 to come out and sell 10 million copies.
Right.
And it didn't sell 10 million copies because it's 10 times better. It sold 10 million copies because there's an expectation that if you were going to follow Crazy Taxi and you're going to have the same kind of gimmick or same kind of style, you better do it right.
Yeah.
And thank God, I'll say the Simpsons did it right, because I like both of them.
They're really good. They spot on. And I think being able to go through all of like Springfield and visit all of these spots, it's a lot of fun.
And I really actually love that you bring that up, because, I was highlighting Crazy Taxi being so extra. The way they talk and like everything. Simpsons didn't steal that.
No.
Simpsons was like, hey, your model of how the game functions is great, but we have all of this IP. We have all of this intellectual property, characters.
Our comedy.
All of this stuff that we can really just infuse.
Right.
And it is its own thing. It does pay homage to it really well. Like, I don't think it's a carbon copy of Crazy Taxi. I could play both in the same night and have great times playing both completely separately.
Yeah, and I feel like they're completely separate games. As we talk about it more and more, I start thinking about like small pieces of it. Where there's burning tires? You can actually like go by there. Like, if you've ever seen in The Simpsons, there's just like this endless burning like pile of tires. It's there.
Like, that's a real thing in Springfield.
Yeah. If you want to go by like the Duff like refinery, like, you can go by there. if you want to go see where like Millhouse, like you can go to all these places, and if you've watched The Simpsons for so long, it gives you that extra connection of, oh wow, I'm actually getting like a 3D perspective of this area, or oh, I'm picking up Marge and I'm bringing her here and she's talking about how like Homer's eating all the sweets, right? So it's a nice touch to have that like connection to something that we're all like pretty like familiar with, and get that like Crazy Taxi like touch to it.
No, I think you're absolutely right. Take something that you're super familiar with, right? Simpsons has been out for a long time. Take another thing you're familiar with, Crazy Taxi, the way it functions, and it gives you this new way to really get to experience something you love, whether it's Crazy Taxi or whether it's Simpsons. And if you love both, it's just like heaven for you, right?
Yeah. Now, the last one I definitely want to mention before we get into our last two was, it was like an RC game that I showed you, and it's called 3D Ultra Radio Control Racer, which is a crazy name, but it was a very simple like computer game, and it's close to one of the first ones. Crash Team Racing definitely was the first one for me, but this one was a really fun game that I was able to play. You had it where you can like drive through like the backyard with the RC cars. You had like different things that was like gnomes throwing stuff, dogs jumping out, grabbing the RC cars, and you had like different like power-ups. It was definitely a really fun game. It was very simple. And I think the two things I remember from it a lot is like there's always like an announcer announcing like whoever's first. And like one of the cars is called Ace, so you'd be like, Ace is leading the race. And you'll always hear like the RC cars going on like, so it's a small thing that just keeps like small bits of memories for me.
I will say though, like looking at it, it looks timeless. It looks like one of those games that like even with low graphics, even if you're running this on like a little junky PC, I think even today you'd be able to like play this competitively and have fun. Because like I'm looking at the maps, and to your point, like there's like pebbles on some of them. Some of them they have like a little inflatable pool with a piece of wood over it. The gnomes you're talking about, I see that they're throwing bombs on one of the maps. So I'm like, all right. I definitely could see where like backyard baseball, right? You have the racing element, it has that element, but also it's like goofy and like kind of intended to be played by kids.
Yeah.
But you know, you get the big dogs in here, we can have a good time too.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I would say that's definitely just that one that I definitely wanted to bring up. I've always remembered it. And then I think there's actually one more, which was Test Drive 6. This had really good music, and I remember it so fondly. I know we went over it for a few seconds, and just seeing like that classic like Viper being on the front page, it really brought back memories. It's a really cool game, and it does give me like a really arcade type game. It doesn't feel like it's a console game itself, even though it was something that you can play on the computer. And I just enjoyed it a lot. I definitely love the music. It definitely had me coming back and forth to it, but it's something I always remember.
No, I think Test Drive is, again, it's like the pre-Forza. Like, there was Gran Turismo, you had Rush, you had a lot of those options in the late 90s, early 2000s, but I think Test Drive was one of those, like, healthy mediums.
Yeah.
Where we're going to give you options, we're going to give you cars. They were touting, we have 40 different licensed vehicles, and they're customizable with thousands of paint jobs. And, like, at the time, like, that really is crazy. I think where this was more attractive to us is at that time we weren't driving. Like, you know, when this came out, you weren't actually a driver. So, like, that's where that Gran Turismo, that's where those really specific racing games were a little above my head.
Yeah.
But Test Drive was definitely something that, like, digestible. I used to play this all the time. I remember the Viper. I remember the music. Like, yeah. Test Drive, definitely something that I think stands the test of time. I think you can still go back and play it, and it has that arcade feel. The same as, like, Ridge Racer.
Yeah, exactly. Now, as I keep going, I remember there's a few more. This is probably the last big one, and then I'll finish off with that new game that we're kind of mentioning. Hot Wheels. We haven't touched up on Hot Wheels. Hot Wheels is such a classic, iconic. I always grew up with like a lot of Hot Wheels. The one that I was showing you just a little bit was called Planet Hot Wheels. And this one was an online game that you could actually play and scan the barcode on the cars that you buy in store, and then you could use that car online.
Oh, yeah.
So it was, for a marketing like plan, that was really like ingenious, because like I could go out, oh, let me go get this car, oh, it has the barcode on it, that means I can play with it online. Like I physically have the car and I can actually drive it on like online. That made it a really cool game. And it was actually a really sad day for me when that actually got shut down, because you just had so many different things. You had different like events, different like races that you could do, different power-ups. Just a really cool like online community. You don't see a lot of online like video games in the early days. That was like the first thing I've ever seen, so I definitely like that one. Hot Wheels actually has some older games that were a lot of like stunt games. I know there was a few that you played as well. And then they have some newer games that are called like Unleashed. I've played the first one. I've actually just touched on the second one. I will say the game, even though it looks very like fun, looks like it's for kids, it's actually pretty difficult.
What was the name of it?
Unleashed.
All right. Yeah, the one that I played came out 22 years before that.
Okay.
The one I played came out in 1999. I was looking at all the releases. They have a lot more games than I expected. They have like over 30
They
games.
do. They actually have a good amount. And some of them are, pretty solid games. I think they always have a good way of taking like the big environment and making it appealing to go around. Like, for example, this latest game, Unleashed 2, one of the DLCs is like Dom's garage from Fast and Furious. So you're actually like driving through his whole garage and stuff like that.
Forget
Which
about
is
it,
like-
cuh.
Yeah, exactly. So I think Hot Wheels has a very nice spot. Definitely wanted to mention it. It's one of the games that you can definitely keep playing and playing again. I will say, when I was playing Unleashed, the first one, of course, there was an option to get a BMW. And I went crazy. I put customization, it looked nice, I had fun, I made it look like the one from Most Wanted. So I was having a fun time. Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about.
I was having a fun time. But I have just one more. Is there any more that you wanted to mention?
I would just give an honorable mention to Driver. I think that, we've covered so many games today that have like little niche areas that they fit and like have options in there.
Yeah.
I think Driver is more of a cinematic game that you are enjoying driving while uncovering a story. And I think that, maybe people who are not really gamers, but they really are into narratives, that would be the type of game for them. And I think that, it's a genre in racing that could be explored. I look at Rocket League and I think that it's such a huge game. And when people think about like cars and soccer, I just don't think that's a combo that a lot of people would be like, this is going to really work. I think when you look at Driver, you have a narrative, you have a movie literally playing out, and then in between the scenes, the cut scenes, you're stealing or you're racing cars. I think that could be a medium that could be explored, kind of like Telltale games, but for racing games. I think Telltale games fit a really nice niche for people who want to play a story game but really don't have good hand-eye coordination. Like, you can just solve mysteries.
Right.
I think Driver is a good racing game for people who can't make good decisions. So like when you play Grand Theft Auto, when you play a lot of these games, you have to care about the characters. You have to kind of care about the storyline to get to the meat and potatoes.
Yeah.
This is literally served to you, jammed down your throat, and then you just, once you get the cutscene, you race to the next part. And I think that genre has been lost a little bit, but also like I think the game holds up. I think if you played it now, I think you'd get just as much enjoyment out of it as you would have 20 years ago.
Gotcha. Okay. And to finish us off, there's a new game that's coming out 2026, and I saw the trailer for it and I want to buy it now.
It looks wild.
I want to buy it now. To give you an idea, it's called Screamer. they don't have like official game footage, but they have like their opening trailer. And if I had to give you a visual of it, imagine Studio Ghibli making a like video game in the future with like the comic book style of like Spider-Verse. That's probably like a close like representation I can give it. It looks really good.
It gave me Acura mixed with
Acura.
like Tron vibes.
There we go. Spot on.
So basically futuristic graphics and very pop arty people.
Yeah. It looks good. I think the core of it is going to be something like Death Race, from how it was like kind of giving a little bit of a storyline to it. So very exciting. That will be coming out next year at some time.
The description is a high octane action and anime aesthetics collide in this arcade racing game, featuring fighting mechanics and a storyline that hits hard.
I like it.
I'm about it.
I like it.
I'm about it.
I love the cover.
Yeah, 2026. The art looks good. The photos and like the actual stills they have are really good. So I have a lot of hope for this game.
Same. But yeah,
Anything else on the list?
I would say that's pretty much it. I would think, there's plenty of racing games we've definitely played a whole lot, and we can talk about them for a long period of time, to be honest with you. There's so many different games that have just different pieces to them that, even though it is racing, they have their own special style to them.
And I guarantee too, like I know we didn't cover them all, so that's where we have to rely on you. We're going to come to you next week with another genre, but in the meantime, we'd love for you to reach out to us on our socials at thelegendofgamingpodcast.com or at the Legend of Gaming Podcast on Instagram, X, or any of the other socials that we have. We would love to hear what racing games you've played, what racing games you're looking forward to, or honestly, maybe the ones that you despise, right? Maybe you despise those Mario Kart nights where you're getting smoked by the guy that started and stretched at the beginning. But what's important is we want to hear your voice, we want to hear what you have to say, and we want to hear you back next time for our next podcast. So this is Matt signing out.
And this is Cliff.
And to be honest, we're going to miss you.
We will.